If I started this video by asking why do we work, I think the answer would be a unanimous for money, to pay rent, dummy. So instead, what I'm going to ask is, why do some of us choose to pay money to play work? Go to Steam and type in simulator, and you'll see thousands of games that'll give you a taste test of what it's like to work certain jobs. It turns out we've been simulating labor for about as long as video games have existed. The first work sim ever released was called the Sumerian game, released in 1964. The first Microsoft Flight Simulator was released in 1982, and 12 iterations were released between that and the 2020 version, where you can apparently see your house from the sky. Most recently, there was the 2022 phenomenon of Power Wash Simulator, which blew up so big that it earned itself a SpongeBob-themed DLC. We've been practicing, tired of looking at bad screen, can't wait to get home and look at good screen, for a pretty long time now. I wanted to get a better understanding of why we all choose to recreationally, without pay, roleplay as power washers, bus drivers, farmers, and train operators. In my research, I played Power Wash Simulator, Lawn Mowing Simulator, 100 Days Winemaking Simulator, Dragon Quest Builders 1 and 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Minecraft, Bus Simulator, Bee Simulator, Rune Factory 4 Special, Stardew Valley, Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town, Doraemon Story of Seasons, Story of Seasons A Wonderful Life, and Harvest Moon Back to Nature. If Nintendo Direct presentations are any indication, the genre that's most synonymous with work games has to be the humble farming sim. It's a common daydream for most people who work desk jobs to have. The idea of leaving the city life behind to grow vegetables and raise barnyard animals in a small community. Many farming sims are actually video games about that daydream. Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, a game I played non-stop when I was younger, starts with learning about your main character's dissatisfaction in life before starting fresh on a relative's farm. Harvest Moon Back to Nature instead pulls on the nostalgia strings as you return to a farm you spent a summer on when you were a kid. In Stardew Valley, you decide to leave your burnout-inducing job at Jojo Mart to tend to your late grandfather's old farm. In these instances, the main character is a self-insert of the player who's looking for this form of labor escapism, the idea that greener grass exists elsewhere. And boy is the grass green in farming sims. They provide the player with an idealized version of what it might look like to work on a farm in a rural town. You get the satisfaction of picking veggies without the back pain and harsh sun. You get the lively community without the lack of opportunities. You get the cute animals without having to clean up after them. I'm a little predisposed to enjoy a good farming sim. I didn't grow up on a farm, but as a kid we did have a chicken coop and a big garden for as long as I can remember. In 2020, I took up IRL gardening as a pandemic hobby. A few days a week, I wake up early and skate down to my community garden plot. I'll water, pull weeds, and pick produce before I have to clock into my Jojo Mart-esque desk job at 9 a.m. Something I feel farming sims are excellent at emulating is the kind of decision-making involved in home gardening. You have the complete freedom to sow whatever you'd like into the ground, and the literal fruits of your labor are yours. I love sunflowers, tomatoes, and spicy peppers, so that's what I grow, in-game and out. Goes without saying that farming simulators would be very different games if you had a manager who told you that eggplant is on the agenda. To me, the Stardew Valley / Harvest / Story of Seasons stream is as much, if not more, about having ownership over your labor than it is about the aesthetics of rural towns and farm life. They don't just sell the idea of what if I was a farmer, they sell players on the idea of what if I had any kind of buy-in at my workplace. So what's the opposite of the Stardew Valley dream? While most work sims examine what it's like to do specific physical labor jobs, it's also interesting to think that for some, the escapism is in managing a spreadsheet. I adore everything about Yakuza Like a Dragon. Modern day city, turn-based combat, himbo simulator is about as up my alley as it gets. I love the characters, the humor, the city, the sincerity, and the fact that I can make my character wear a bucket hat for the entire game. Now, the business management minigame, Ichiban Confections, is so good that it made me put down this game that was made for me until I had the most profitable business in Yokohama. In Ichiban Confections, instead of role-playing as the baker or the cashier, you roleplay as the CEO. You'll be buying property, hiring workers, training workers, firing workers, and licking the boots of shareholders with the goal of increasing your gross profit margin. Sell as much product as you can, all while keeping your expenses as low as possible. Now, there are secondary benefits to playing Ichiban Confections. You'll unlock a delightful new party member, get some extra pocket cash for the main game, and of course, you'll get a little something called Essence of Orbital Laser. But personally, I found myself playing for 6 hours straight because I was simply enjoying Microsoft Excel Simulator 2021. Despite not knowing even one thing about wine, 100 Day Winemaking Simulator ended up scratching that Ichiban Confections itch. You have a set amount of actions you can take within a certain time period and get to choose what you want to prioritize to run your business. Some actions include growing and harvesting grapes, fermenting them, upgrading facilities, and even producing marketing material and advertising your product. The number of actions you're allowed to take have to fit neatly into this satisfying little isometric puzzle. My winery went bankrupt pretty quick. Of course, many farming sims are also number go up economic sims on the side. It feels good to rake in that extra cash to budget for more seeds, equipment, farm animals, etc. When I have a surplus of produce from my garden, I enjoy sharing them with friends and family. The community garden also has that classic farming sim drop-off box, but instead of magically receiving money after falling asleep, it goes to a local food bank for people in our community who might have a harder time accessing fresh produce. Ghouls like Ayn Rand theorize that people do things solely in their own self-interest, in a school of thought called objectivism. Anecdotally, I can say I personally don't do my work hobby to make any kind of profit. I'm not even convinced that it's less expensive than purchasing vegetables from the grocery store. The practice is rewarding on its own. Something that gardening has taught me in real life is that process is fun. Plucking each individual weed out of the ground doesn't feel unlike washing every bit of grime off of a car or pineapple under the sea. Some words ascribed by reviewers to the experience of playing Power Wash Simulator are therapeutic, a little hit of dopamine, and zen-like. Power Wash Simulator sold over 3 million copies in just 2 months after its launch, signaling a hidden desire within most of us to simply turn our brains off and accomplish a task. There's something enjoyable about these repetitive, autopilot kinds of games. You have something to keep your hands busy, allowing your head to reflect, daydream, or just completely zone out. The rise of the quote-unquote podcast game helps us stomach the idea of doing these repetitive things with our finite time on this planet. Listening to a podcast becomes the primary focus while you practice combos, farm for souls, or just drive a bus. Simply put, it can be pretty fun to work. I don't mean that in a pre-FLSA, the children yearn for the mines type of way, but in a it's satisfying to accomplish a task way. Speaking of which, there's no ignoring the #1 best-selling video game of all time, an enormous elephant in the room, Minecraft. I'd personally be fascinated in reading some kind of psych journal about why kids love Minecraft so much, but if I had to take a wild swing, I'd assume it's because it's more like digital building blocks than it is digital coal mining. It provides a world with rules for developing brains to problem solve and use their creativity. Dragon Quest Builders, a lovely, kind of Crayon Shinchanification of Minecraft, proposes a world where its rulers, the Children of Hargon, teach destruction as a way of life and religious ideal, with the concepts of creating and building being sins punishable by death. It has that heavy-handed charm that most Dragon Quest games have. Where it differs from Minecraft is that you end up building a community full of characters who decide to rebel with you and start creating. These characters will start pitching in with watering, harvesting, cooking, and eventually building. Friedrich Engels left an unfinished essay called "The Part Played by Labor in the Transition from Ape to Man," where he argued that the drive to work is what separates humans from our primate ancestors. In it, he said that labor is the prime basic condition for all human existence, and this to such an extent that, in a sense, we have to say that labor created man himself. In Dragon Quest Builders, when your community members start working with you, they leave a little yellow heart behind after accomplishing a task. This little yellow heart feels to me like a symbol of the kind of thing that separates humans from other primates. We built shelter, grew crops, and cooked food, and that's what helped us evolve, for better or for worse. Basically, what I'm saying is, I think Friedrich Engels would have loved Dragon Quest Builders too. Work sims take the most enjoyable parts of labor, but strip the aspects of it that make us all hate our jobs. If work sims were actually like work, they'd have impossible to please managers, impossible to satisfy customers, and impossible to hit deadlines. But when work is taken out of the pressure cooker and done within our own terms, it turns out it can be pretty fun. Do you like playing work sims? Which one's your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and feel free to like or subscribe if that's like your thing. Thanks for watching, appreciate it.